Howdy, friends and family. Thank you so much for joining me. This is day 22 in the series I'm doing called In the Midst. And last time we looked at how love is not self-seeking. And today we are looking at how love forgives. Specifically, we're looking at how love forgives others. And to do this, we're going to look at the parable of the unforgiving servant. And this comes from Matthew 18, verses 21 through 35. And we do not have time to read that entire thing. So instead, I'm going to recap most of the story, and then we'll read a portion of it together. So at the beginning of this story, Peter comes to Jesus and he says, "Lord, how many times should I forgive my brother or my sister? Should I forgive them 7 times? And Jesus says, no, not 7, but 77 times 7. And the point he's trying to make is that we are to continuously forgive those around us. And so in this parable, Jesus tells us that the kingdom of heaven can be compared to this parable. And in this parable, there is a king who wants to settle his debts with his servants. And this one servant comes to him, and this servant owes him 10,000 talents. Now, to give you some perspective, 1 talent is worth about 60,000 denarii, which is about 20 years' wages. So this servant owes the king about 200,000 years' wages. That is a lot of money. That is actually more money than you could probably ever make in a lifetime, considering the human lifespan is an average of 80 years. So this servant owes more money than he could ever make. And so the king commands that he and his wife and everything he owns be sold and that the money go towards his debt. And the servant begs for time. He says, "Give me more time, be patient with me, and I will pay this back." But the king, instead of even saying, "I give you more time," the king forgives the entire debt. The entire thing. It's just gone. 200,000 years worth of money. Just don't have to pay it back. So this servant goes off and he finds servant number 2 who owes him money. And servant number 2 owes this first servant 100 denarii. Now, 1 denarius is about a day's wages. So this guy doesn't even owe the first servant a whole year's worth of money. He owes him about a third of a year's worth of money. And the first servant takes this man and starts choking him and says, "Pay me back my money." And servant number 2 says, "Just give me time. I ask for patience and I will pay you back." And servant number 1 says no and throws him in prison. Now, word of this reaches the king, and this is the king's response. It comes from Matthew 18, verses 32 to 35, which says, "Then after he had summoned him, his master said to him, 'You wicked servant, I forgave you all the debt because you begged me. Shouldn't you also have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you?' And because he was angry, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he could pay everything that he was owed. So also my heavenly Father will do to you unless every one of you forgives his brother or sister from your heart." We are to forgive our brothers and sisters on into infinity. No matter how many times they sin against us, we are supposed to forgive them. That is what we are called to. We know that God shows us this incredible mercy, and so we should show it to others. And this is not saying that our salvation is based upon this forgiveness of others, because we know that our salvation is based upon what Jesus did for us. And we may be tempted to hold this grudge against others, but we are not called to us. That is the feeling, the passive part of things. We are called to choose forgiveness. This is the choice that we have. When we choose to love, when we choose to follow Jesus, we choose to forgive, to replicate this incredible mercy that God has shown us. So go and replicate that mercy. If you're looking for a verse to memorize, we're working on Psalm 103, verses 10 through 12. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.